So we help you talk about yourself more confidently, put you in front of the right kinds of people that can open up, those game-changing doors for you, and in general help you kind of show up more confidently and more sure of yourself so that you can create your own opportunity.
Welcome all to our financial wellness podcast, From Roots to Fruits, where we nurture our roots to grow more delicious fruits. I'm your host, Arlyne. Let's get started. Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm joined by Beth, who is the founder of Orchid Marketing. She is a brilliant person who is supporting people with their personal brand as well as their strategy, or supporting small business owners in how they are visible online and in person. We actually collaborated before. Beth was one of the speakers at Empower Her, and a lot of people had such good things to say about her session, and we just had to have an extended session online so we can go into the details in terms of how people can use their personal brand to grow their wealth. But yeah, welcome, Beth.
Thank you so much for having me. I had such a good time at the Empower Her session as well. And yeah, I think it's a real testament to the community that you have, to the kinds of people that are obviously aligned with your mission, because everyone I met there was so lovely. And I'm really excited for our chat as well.
Yay, brilliant. Thank you. And tell us a little bit more about yourself. What has your journey been in terms of like your training and your career, and what has led you to setting up this business?
Yeah, I think for most entrepreneurs, or most entrepreneurs can agree that the journey to this point of the business has been a very windy road. So Orchid Marketing now is an agency that helps business owners go from invisible to in demand, which is like my tagline. But essentially what we do is we combine the power of marketing and personal branding to drive business growth. So we help you talk about yourself more confidently, put you in front of the right kinds of people that can open up, those game-changing doors for you, and in general help you kind of show up more confidently and more sure of yourself so that you can create your own opportunities. But what Orchid originally looked like was a social media marketing agency. So we were helping business owners still with kind of, related to what we do now, but more so in a social media capacity. So putting themselves out there on socials, driving sales through social media. But where the personal branding element came was after I got an invitation on LinkedIn, message on LinkedIn, to attend this event for other senior female leaders. So these were people that were really established in their careers, that were established in their businesses as well. And it was really exciting to get this invitation because I'd not long started Orchid at this point. I think I was about a month in. And it was the first sign, at least for me at the time, that I was being recognized as this like actual CEO of an actual company, and I'm a business owner now for real. Other people see it too. It's not just me telling myself in my head. And so I obviously said yes. And then on the day of the event, I went, sat next to someone, and we started the day with introductions. And the person that I was sat next to, she was writing down everyone's names and titles and information. Obviously, that's what you do when you want to follow up with people after an event. But then when it was my turn to introduce myself, she didn't pick up her pen. And as you can imagine, that was a real knock to my confidence, and really made me feel like an imposter in that room, and made me feel like, this idea that I had in my head of being a CEO of a company was not true. But another question that was going through my mind was why? Why did she not care? Why did she not want to take my details down? I didn't feel like the way that I introduced myself was really any different from how other people were talking about themselves. And so what I did that night when I got home was I looked up everyone that she had written down. I'd also taken their details down as well. And I found that it was really easy to find their social profiles, to find their LinkedIn, to know who they were, what they did, what, they were an authority on. And it was very clear why people should listen to them. And even though, as I said, I didn't feel like my introduction was really any different, I think the way that I came across and the confidence that I had in myself was clearly very different and coming from a different place. And so I made the decision that night that I was going to do whatever I could to put myself out there, to start building up my profile, to start, for people to start seeing me in the same way.
Mhm.
And basically, since doing that, I've had some amazing opportunities come through the door, but I've also been able to impact people in ways that I never thought that I would. And so, to sum it all up, the journey has been very windy. The journey has been sort of very much me just figuring out as I go along. But I think the underlying ideas of putting yourself out there and being comfortable with putting yourself out there and telling your story has always been really, really been a passion of mine, and something that I love to help other people with. So yeah, that's a bit about me and Orchid.
Thank you for sharing that story because it's showing how you use a vulnerable moment and you used it to fuel something, identified something that we all go through. Honestly, it could be if it's in a workplace and then you feeling kind of like I'm not heard when I ask something or if I say something, but then someone else says it and then everybody goes, yeah, that's a good idea, but I just said it. And
Yeah.
then that could knock your confidence so much. And but however, it didn't stop you. You then decided, this is something that I need to help other people. So you identified a problem and your first person to support is yourself, which is even better because then you can resonate with how a lot of us really feel in these rooms. So this is really great. And the work that you've been doing has been supporting people. So keep going. However, a lot of people don't fully understand what does personal brand actually mean. Could you
Yeah.
clarify?
Yeah, I'd love to. So, the way that I think about personal brand is I like to break it down by the two words that make it up. So, obviously, we start with personal. So, what does personal actually mean? For me, I think it's the sides of you and the things about you that you want people to connect with you. So, this is things like your personality, your values, what you care about. Maybe it's your faith. Maybe, it's also your knowledge and your expertise and the things that you care about, the things that make you you as a person and make you sort of unique as a person as well. And when I talk about this, I also get a lot of comments and questions from people saying, well, does that mean that I need to now put myself out there all the time, be on all the time and like overshare? I see this a lot, that people will confuse personal branding with oversharing, but that is not what it is at all. You don't need to tell people your deepest, darkest secrets to make a connection with people. It's the things about you that make you you and that make you unique, as I said. So it's about being selective and strategic with what you share so that people can start to make those connections with you and start to remember you in certain ways as well, which leads me quite nicely on to the branding side of things. So what does branding mean? Basically, branding is the associations that people have of you. So it's the way that people perceive you. It's the feelings, the thoughts, the associations that come to mind when someone hears your name. So I think the easiest way to think about this is just imagine how someone might describe you to someone that doesn't know you. So what are the words, skills, phrases, things that you like that will stand out in their mind so much and enough that they will also then tell that to another person. So it's really important, I guess, to be intentional about your personal brand, because through the way that you talk to people, through what you post online, how you interact, both online and offline, these are all forming parts of your associations. And what you share about yourself is also part of your associations. And one of the messages that I think is really important when we're talking about like what is personal branding isn't necessarily always about how you see yourself. It starts with that, but it's also about how other people see you. And the goal of personal branding is to kind of take control of these associations, of these thoughts that come to mind when someone hears your name, so that people can see you the way you want to be seen. So yeah.
That's, yeah, a lot of things were going through my mind when you were kind of describing that. I mean, just speaking from a personal kind of just myself, a lot of people might think that you have to be like an entrepreneur. I've started a business. Now I need to care about what my personal brand is. And, just the phrase, it makes you think that, okay, now I want to be someone who is running a business. But actually, it applies to everyone. And my journey at work, when I wanted to get a promotion, for example, that's when I started to think, why is someone else getting an opportunity instead of me? And I started to see that actually it's the way that they come across, and exactly how you just described, like, what is your personal brand? How are you seen in different rooms? And how would people actually describe you? That when I started to think of that, that's when it really clicked. But in terms of how people can then start to put things in place, because okay, now we know what a personal brand is, how can I actually start to change it for the better?
Yeah, yeah. And before we get into that, I think you raised a really important point there of how personal branding is beneficial for everyone, first of
Yeah.
all, but also for basically every single situation, right? Like the way that people remember you, the way that people think about you is all going to determine whether or not you get promoted, whether or not you get this exciting opportunity, whether or not you get that exciting client, for example. Because I guess at the core of it is, yes, it's about how people think about you, but it's also, do people like you? Do
Mm,
people want to work with you? Do people see you in this capacity of a promotion, of working with you in this client capacity? So it really does make sense for everyone, and it can be beneficial for basically any situation. But in terms of how to actually then start building your personal brand, so I've got a 2-step framework that I like to share with people because it's very easy. And everyone right now, if you don't have a pen and paper out yet, make sure you get your notebooks out because you'll want to write notes for this part. So the first step is all about getting clarity. So how can you actually start to build your personal brand in a way that works for you? So the first step is understanding your goal, your end goal. What is it that you want your personal brand to do for you? Again, in a business capacity, it's probably to attract clients, but it might also be that you want to build your profile by speaking on podcasts, for example, or doing workshops. You might want to be featured in magazines and land press features, or in general, you just want to be recognized as like a thought leader / expert in your industry. Those are some examples, but it could also be, as we've mentioned there, you want to get promoted, you want to build your profile outside of work, maybe you want to move into a different industry as well. Your personal brand can help you with that too. So figure out what your end goal is. And then the next step from that is figuring out what you want to be known for. Now, this is a very big question to ask and answer, but the way that I like to think about it is a tree. So you have the trunk of the tree and you have branches of the tree. And the way that I like to split this up is you have a main topic, which is the core of what you do. It's what you want to be known for the most, and it's directly linked to your goals as well. And then you have subtopics, which are the different ways that you can connect with your audience that give you flexibility to the things that you talk about, and also kind of show people that, you're an actual human. You're not just a robot that talks about the same things all the time. So if we think about your main topic as the trunk of a tree, as I said, these are the things that are going to be the things that help you reach your goal the most. So for me, if we think about my tree, my trunk is personal branding, of course, that's what we're talking about today, marketing. These two things help me get clients and grow my business, which is my end goal. And then my subtopics, which are the branches of my tree, are that I love to read. I love to review co-working cafes because I mostly work from home, and I find that it's quite nice to see where cafes are very laptop friendly, or where, they don't mind if you have a coffee and sit in there for a few hours and do some work. So that kind of makes up the bulk of what I talk about, what I share with people, the things that I like to be selective and strategic about. So when we're thinking about how we want to answer this question of what you want to be known for, think about it like your tree. And you can draw a tree if you want to, you don't have to, but think about the core thing that you want to be known for that leads back to this goal that you have. And then what subtopics do you want your audience to connect with you over? And you might think, okay, well, I've got my main topic, which is helping me reach my goals, but what role does the subtopics have then? And the subtopics are basically ways for you to open up more conversations with people. And the reason why that is helpful is because you never know where these conversations are going to go. Sometimes you might start a conversation with someone in a completely different capacity. You share similar music interests, for example, and then you both find out down the line that actually there's a way for you to collaborate, or in a few weeks' time, there's an opportunity and they remembered you because they really liked you and you have that connection already. So they both work hand in hand to, as I said before, build out your associations, and what you want to be known for is going to then help you reach your goals, and is why we have to set those goals first as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final thing in clarity is, who do you actually need in your audience? Who do you need in your network to help you reach your goals? So the way that I like to think about your audience in general are the people that are going to help you achieve your goals. So of course, if you're trying to attract clients, it makes sense that you're going to want potential customers, potential clients, maybe other business owners or people who work in the same industry as you that can refer you for exciting opportunities. So that's how we build clarity. The second part to it is then the actual visibility, which I know is probably the hardest part. Putting yourself out there is definitely not easy. It feels very unnatural, very uncomfortable, feels weird at the beginning.
Yeah.
And don't worry, I've had this before as well, where people have been like, "You're so confident, Beth. Has this always been how how you've always been?" And definitely not. Definitely not. I used to be very, very scared of doing presentations and getting up in front of audiences. But the reason why I do it is because I understand that visibility is just as important as ability. Of course, you have to be good at what you do. You have to be able to deliver, especially as a business owner, right? Like, you have a product or service that you're selling. Like, people are actually paying you for a specific outcome. So of course you have to be good at what you do. But if people don't know that you're good at this thing, or people don't know that you're really skilled in this area, or your business solves this problem, then, your abilities no one can benefit from that. And so when you start to realize, okay, I am good at what I do, but in order for me to actually benefit from that, and also my clients or the person on the receiving end can benefit from that as well, I need to put myself out there. So then with this, again, there's a few questions that you can answer here, which is, first of all, what do you talk about? How do you become visible? Here, I like to think about questions and reflections on things that you have seen in your industry, or that are about your journey, or mistakes that you see people make that you have a comment on. So, one of the things that I did at the beginning of this podcast was talk about my journey. And, there were lots and lots of mistakes that I made along the way that if I had known this a year ago, I would have been in a much better position. So that's an example of where you can start to talk about things in a way that positions you and makes you be seen as someone that kind of knows what they're talking about. But that only matters if you are staying consistent, right? You have to consistently talk about your expertise, the things that you care about, the results that you get for your clients, for example, the results that you get in your job. And so what I find here is that a lot of people will say, I know what I need to talk about, but I'm really bad at staying consistent. And it's all about figuring out a way and creating a system that works for you. I was speaking to a friend of mine recently, Caitlin, that has this amazing sustainable productivity business called Interlude. And she said the most amazing thing. She was like, the thing that I teach is good enough systems, which I think is so amazing, because it's basically saying, like, what is the minimum that I can do where I'm still staying consistent, still working for me, but it doesn't feel like a burden. It doesn't feel like all of this pressure. So here, my version of that is, instead of forcing yourself to do things that don't feel natural, lean into what works for you. Maybe you love to talk to people, so you start your own podcast. Maybe you love writing, so you start to write your own blog posts or start writing articles for other people. Maybe you're more visual and you like to be creative with the way that you come across on video. All of these things can work, right? Like there's no right or wrong answer to visibility. It's just leaning into what works for you, what is working for you and what works for you, so that you can stay consistent and get the most out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final question in this section is, what is holding me back? Which is a very deep question.
It's a
A
hard one.
hard question. And this is usually my favorite part whenever I go through this with someone, because I'm like, yes, I am calling you out right now. And I'm sorry, but you need to hear this, that you are getting in your own way. And the way that I like to stop myself, or what I would do when I was at the beginning of this personal brand journey and getting in my own way and thinking about things way too much, is I started to take myself out of it and ask myself questions. Okay, so I'm criticizing myself because I don't feel like my content is good enough. Well, we can turn that into a question and into a problem that we can solve by saying, okay, if I feel like my content isn't good enough, what is good content? What
Mm.
criteria makes up good content? How can I make my content fit that criteria? Or, I'm afraid to be judged. I'm afraid of putting myself out there because, Tom, Dick, and Harry that I went to school with is going to laugh at my content. Okay, so then we can look at that and think, does the opinion of Tom, Dick, and Harry matter to the success of what I'm trying to do here? Are they going to be clients of mine? Are they going to, actually do anything with my content? What do I do now about this? Okay, I should maybe remove them from my profiles or from my following list. Maybe I can block them as well. I'm a big, big advocate for the block button.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to get in your mind, especially when you like see their name of people that you went to school with or went to uni with, or
Yeah.
people that you know from, maybe a previous time in your life, and you see that name in your notifications list and you're like, oh, I know them and it's kind of weird now, it's a bit awkward. But if they're not supporting you, they were never going to help you get further anyway.
Yeah.
So it's looking at what are the things that are holding you back, and taking a step back and seeing, okay, what questions can I ask here to turn them into solution or turn them into problems that I can then find a solution for, has really changed the game for me. And it's something that I do in a lot of aspects of my life, not just with putting myself out there. So that's my framework, and that's what I like to teach in my workshops and what I like to do with people, to really help them see, okay, I kind of have a plan now, but I also know personally and psychologically what I need to work on too. And because it all has to work together in order to kind of feel comfortable.
Oh, that was really brilliant. And I think I needed this session. I've just learned so much. I'm definitely going to be asking myself that last question in terms of what are my blockers? What am I trying to achieve? So then we can just work back on that, because I think people just think of this subject as it's just marketing or it's just social media, but actually there's a huge personal side to it, as you explained before, that it's kind of like what are you trying to achieve? What are your goals and how you're going to get there? And then making sure the steps that you're taking are aligned with your initial goals.
Yeah.
Honestly, it sounds like we should all just be doing this already, but I know a lot of people that are listening are going to be like, yeah, I need to sit down and do this exercise. I'm hoping as well, I'm definitely going to share kind of like your contact details at the end for sure, but I'm hoping that this information is available somewhere, or people can sign up to your workshops to like really get an in-depth session, because I'm sure it will support anyone, personal, profession or starting a business. I think everyone needs this.
Absolutely. Yeah. As I said, it can work in any stage of your life. And I think
Mhm.
what's also really nice about personal branding is that everyone starts from the same place. It doesn't matter if you have 50 years of experience, 5 months of experience. if you've never put yourself out there in a sort of strategic way and never thought about how you can leverage your personal brand for success and to grow your wealth, which is obviously what we're talking about today, then you're all starting from the same place and from the same, point. So it's also, I think, it doesn't matter whether you're 50, whether you're 15,
Yes.
it's something that we can all benefit from. So,
Mhm.
yes.
It is never too early to start planning for your retirement. And that's where our sponsor, Pension Bee, comes in. Pension Bee are on a mission to build pension confidence and create a world where everyone can enjoy a happy retirement. Whether you've moved around jobs a lot and are looking to consolidate your pension into one easy to manage plan, or you're self-employed looking for a flexible pension plan which allows you to contribute as much or as little as you like depending on your income. It's easy to sign up and you can do this via the link in the show notes. So, what are you waiting for? Take control of your retirement today, and remember, when investing, your capital is at risk.
Absolutely. Start today.
And I mean, on that note, in terms of when you can start, when you should start, which is right now, whenever you are ready. But a lot of people might feel like, listen, I've had a career in this and I'm obviously known for this, and these are the skills that I have built up. But maybe within my company or externally, I want to move into a different kind of role. So starting to pivot, how can they leverage what you're kind of describing to then help them along with that pivot period?
Yeah, it's a really good question because as I mentioned, with your main topics and subtopics, they're quite flexible. So, potentially your main topics right now are within the industry that you're working in, right? Or maybe where your business is right now. But your subtopics can very much be related to things that you're just generally interested in. As I said, I love to read. I like to, go to review co-working cafes. But it might be that you really love tech or AI, for example, and you love learning about that and talking about that. So I think when it comes to like the ratios of your main topic and subtopic, of course, the main topic has to be bigger because that's what's helping you reach your goals. But you can also bring in more of an emphasis on this one subtopic if it's going to show that you know what you're talking about, you have an interest in this thing. And then when you go into, say, interviews, for example, say you're trying to move into an AI focused role, you can then say, I write a newsletter on AI, or I regularly speak at these AI conferences, or a lot of my content, a lot of the conversations that I have are based around AI. And so it allows you to show people that you care about this thing, that you are interested about it. And so it's not obviously a replacement for experience, but it at least shows that, okay, if you have all of these other skills that are related and what's missing is kind of just your working in the industry, you can kind of add to it by showing how much you care about whatever it is that you're trying to pivot into. And I actually have a personal story about this because I never, so when I went to university, I studied film studies and German.
Oh,
It's a very weird combination. I was like, I'm just going to do what I like, which I think is really great advice.
yes.
And so when I was in my degree was 4 years because I went on a year abroad. And when I was on my year abroad, I was like, I actually don't have any work experience apart from working at McDonald's and Next. And I wanted to go into translation and use my language. And that was kind of my goal for a long time. And then I started looking at how to get work experience in translation and realized that it was actually it was not the most accessible industry. But what kept coming up for me was marketing. And when I started looking into it, I was like, actually, marketing seems like quite fun. It's quite creative. It's still using communication in a way that I like, of,
Very
being
true.
able to put your ideas forward and show people, the meanings behind things. And so I was like, okay, maybe marketing might be something I could do. And the more that I looked into it, the more I was like, okay, I'm going to try and get some work experience in marketing. So what did I do? I was applying for internships and getting rejected because I didn't have experience. But I wanted to pivot into marketing. So I ended up creating an Instagram page, all sharing all of my ideas, everything that I learned, my thoughts, starting to position myself as someone that knew what they were talking about in marketing. So on the outside, I looked like someone that was very knowledgeable in this area. And in the back end, what I was also gaining was skills and ways of analyzing marketing campaigns and analyzing data, the data from growing a page on Instagram or growing on social media. And so I was able to use that. So combining the fact that I looked very knowledgeable and knew what I was talking about with the fact that I was able to get these sort of relevant skills and hard skills needed for me to get some work experience. And that's how I ended up pivoting into marketing. So using the same ideas of if I can be visible, if I can show people that I know what I'm talking about, and at the same time, I'm gaining these skills in a way that will help me pivot. I think that that's the winning formula.
Mm, that's really great. Thank you for sharing your story. And literally, what I took from that as well is you make the decision to pivot and you start acting like
Yes.
you are doing it as well. And when you're doing that, you're showing people that, through, it could be online, it could be in person, that you're showing people that you can do it. And you almost just built a new personal brand for yourself. And then you can get into that position. So I'm really glad that you did that too. So then you can show people that it can be done. And I was hoping for another example as well for maybe one of your clients where you've seen this work and they've actually got some revenue from it or a bump up in their pay, whatever it is. Is there an example that you can share?
Yeah, I've been recently testing and working on a new coaching program. So, one of the results that I've got from one of my test clients there is she's a transformational coach. So, she helps you feel more aligned in your life and helps you see again where maybe you're holding yourself back or where you maybe conditioned yourself to believe certain things and that's holding you back. So we've been working together on this program of understanding how putting herself out there and also putting her business out there works together and benefits each other. And since we've been working for the last couple of months now. On average, the accounts that she's been able to reach have grown by 350%. She's
Wow.
landed press features. She has also had an increase in the discovery calls and conversations that she's having with clients since we've been working together. I think it's yes, of course, these things of like getting more eyeballs on your content and things are really great and it feels really good, but ultimately likes and followers and comments and stuff don't necessarily matter that much if it's not helping you with your ultimate goal. So the goal that my client has is to grow her business, and so everything that we're doing is making everything work better together so that not only is it very clear what she does, but it's very clear why she does it, who she does it for, and why she's the right person for that job. So yeah, it's been really great so far.
That's great. And transformational coaches really aligned with also like personal branding too. So that's quite interesting to hear in terms of the people that you support as well. And I mean, just thinking about this, a lot of it has to do with kind of what's going on in your head, what's going on in your life, mindset. And what's the biggest mindset block that people face when they're trying to build their personal brand, and how can they overcome it?
Yeah. So I get a lot of, people saying to me that the thing that really stops them is in a funny way, they have a fear of being perceived. So if you put yourself out there, you put yourself out there in a way that other people will see you and other people can come in and judge you. And it is a really, really vulnerable thing, right? You're putting yourself out there in a way that could potentially be received negatively, be received as, you're doing too much, or you're trying too hard, or, all of these things. So to be honest, I think it stems from that. And then how people react to that is quite different. For some people, it's, I don't want people that I know seeing me. Or for some people, it's, I've had conversations with other people where me putting myself out there is seen as trying too hard, or they receive it negatively because they're like, well, you're kind of licking people's bums basically. And another way is literally just like, I don't feel like I'm an expert enough, or I don't have enough authority yet to talk on this topic. So I guess with the first ideas of people judging me, people looking at me negatively, again, we can look at that from the perspective of like, how can we turn this into questions so that we can solve it as a problem? But also I think it's helpful to make a list, like actually tell yourself, okay, these people are the people that I care about making a good impression or showing, that I know what I'm talking about too. So if you're trying to get a job, all you care about really is, I want to make a good impression to HR, or I want to make a good impression to my future manager, for example. So when it comes to that point of, not seeing yourself as an authority, again, I think we tell ourselves that we need to have decades of experience in order to be an expert at something. But actually, even people with decades of experience aren't experts.
Yes.
And again, you have to question those thoughts in your mind of, okay, if I think that this is true, is there a reality where the opposite is true? So you're telling yourself that it's true that people with lots and lots of years of experience are experts. Well, the opposite of that is people can have lots and lots of years of experience and not be an expert. And similarly, people can have very few years of experience and be an expert. And again, write down, okay, what does it mean to be an expert? Is it that you have opinions on things? Is it that you are tapped into industry trends? Is it that you are, usually when we think about experts, it's because they've written books, it's because they have some sort of like active newsletter, or they're a public speaker or something. So, okay, we can then think, okay, if they have these three things of they're very visible, they're tapped into industry trends, and, whatever else I said, my memory is so bad today. If we say, okay, they have those three things, then you can work backwards to achieve those things as well. So it's telling yourself things that you think are true, and then taking a step back and think, okay, is there a reality where that is not true? Is there a reality where the opposite of that is also true? And then, okay, how can I work backwards to tell or prove to myself that I can still do that thing and still achieve that thing?
Yes. Thank you so much. And earlier you shared that, you are, I don't think you used the words introvert, but you did say that you didn't find you uncomfortable, kind of speaking in public places or presentations. And it's something that you built up the skill to do. A lot of people might feel the same way, that I want to be seen and I want to speak up and be seen for X, Y, Z. However, I just feel kind of shy to put my hand up in a meeting or in a classroom or online. How did you build up that confidence to then just start? And do you find it easy now, or are you still kind of nervous before you do it?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely still nervous. Like even before coming onto this podcast, it's like I always kind of panic a bit, and I'm like, oh, where are my notes, and where are, the things that I've prepared for this? But I think there's a few scenarios there, right? So in terms of putting yourself out there online, honestly, what worked for me, and I can obviously only talk about what's worked for me, I had to convince myself and remind myself all the time that genuinely people aren't checking for me like that. Like, people are not looking at my every move. People, are not on my account refreshing my page, waiting for the next post to drop. Like, people are busy. People have their own lives. People are not usually stalking your every move like that. And so I had to remind myself of that all the time. what would actually work for me early on in the journey is whenever I would post something, I would post it and then close my laptop or like turn my phone off and like throw it on the sofa and walk away from it. And basically had like forced myself to forget that I had done it and posted. Otherwise, yeah, I would overthink and it would take me like a whole day to make one post. And that's not sustainable. You have other things to do. And so that tended to work for me, telling myself that like, really no one is looking at your every move like that. And also that, you know, what made me uncomfortable was the posting part. So okay, how can I basically close my eyes, post, and then walk away and forget about it?
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to offline, like public speaking or doing podcasts like this, I guess we're online, but doing more of these like sort of in-person talking aspects, it's also okay to be nervous, right? Like I think it's very, very normal for people to be scared and nervous before doing something like this, for example, going on a podcast, because it just shows that you care, that you want to do a good job, shows that you care about what you have to say and how you want to come across. But the way that's really helped me get over judging myself and my performance is instead thinking about what are maybe three words, three adjectives to describe my performance that aren't related to what I look like, what I sound like, or what I actually said. So, for example, all I really judge myself on is, was I actionable? Have I helped someone think about whatever I was talking about differently? Are they going to listen to this and think, Beth was really, really helpful and she helped break down things that I previously found confusing or hard to understand? None of that has to do with really what I say or how I look or how I acted during the podcast, public speaking workshop, whatever it is. And instead it's focused on the the impact that I'm having on the person receiving my message. And so when you take yourself out of it and think, okay, what is the impact I want to have? That was what really, really helped me. And another thing is being prepared. Like, as I said, I'd prepped some notes. I've got things that I typically like to talk about and points that I like to make. And being prepared helps me feel more secure, helps me feel more ready and more confident. So those are some of the things that I've done tactically, but also you just have to do it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but you just have to put yourself out there in one way or another, especially if you find it really scary. Because the thing that I like to tell myself and a mindset that I always have is if you know the first time is going to be the hardest or the scariest or the worst, and by the 100th time, it's second nature and you feel really good about it and you can do it in your sleep. Why would you not want to get to 100 as quickly as possible? So by me by me doing these public speaking engagements, by me doing my workshops, by speaking on these podcasts, every single time I do it gets easier and easier and easier. And every single time I put myself out there, it becomes less scary and less scary and less scary. So I think there's the tactical things that you can do, but also at the same time, it gets to a point
Mm-hmm.
and you do have to then say, okay, I can prepare all I want, I can learn all I want, but at some point I have to do. And in my opinion, and this is what I do with clients as well, is I make them do as early and as quickly as possible.
Brilliant. Just start. And you shared so much in terms of practical stuff that people can start to do to get prepared, whether they are starting out, whether they're pivoting, and in any industry as well. And the thread really between your personal brand and how you come across to really how much you might earn because of that, whether that is in your business or kind of in a personal circumstance. So it's really important, I think, for everyone to take seriously. So thank you for sharing all the practical tips. And just a quick question in terms of how can people find out more about your programs or get in touch with you and follow you too? Where can people find you?
Yeah, so my most active platforms are TikTok, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So on TikTok and Instagram, it's the same username. It's orchidmarketing.co. So that's ORCHID marketing.co. And then on LinkedIn, if you just look up Beth Orchid, I should come up. Because I've done something weird with the search thingy anyway. So if you look up Beth Orchid, ORCHID, it should come up with me. And yeah, I'd love to stay connected and would love to know what kind of stood out for you as well from this podcast, and let me know where you came from.
Brilliant. Yes, we'll definitely share the links as well so people can just click and go straight to your profiles. So our last questions, and this one's a little bit more around kind of yourself. I don't know if you're a reader, or if you're not a reader, are you a podcast listener? Which one do you do more?
I'm both.
Both.
So yeah.
Okay. So I'll ask around books.
Okay.
What is your favorite book that you've read recently?
Easy. How to Win Friends and Influence People. That
Perfect.
is
That's
such a
also
good
aligned
book.
to personal brands as well.
Yes, it does. It does. And it makes it sound like like the 48 Laws of Power, like one of those books, but it's really not. It's basically just helping you have better relationships with people and help you talk to people in a way that helps them, helps you, and it sort of like, works it's more beneficial for both of you. So I think that is essential reading for everyone, to be honest. And it's kind of a shame that I've only just read it now, but I think better late than never with a book like that. It's a classic for a reason. And if you haven't read it yet, you absolutely should.
I will definitely do that. I'm adding it to my list as well. So thank you for sharing and thank you for your time today. I hope you have a great rest of your day and the great rest of the month. It's the start of the month right now.
Yeah.
But personally, I've learned so much from just speaking to you today, and I hope everybody else listening has.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been so great. And thank you for inviting me on. And this was absolutely the perfect way to start a new month. So thank you.
That is all for us today, guys. Join us next week for some more seeds to sow. And please remember to support us by following and leave a rating on our show on whichever platform you're listening to us from. To those watching on YouTube, please leave a like and a subscribe to our channel. All of your support goes a long way. Thank you so much for joining us today. And remember, keep shining.